The moment I stepped into the ballroom, I saw my name missing from the seating chart. Polished acrylic on a wooden easel, place cards in prim little serif type arcing under the chandeliers. Call Richard Cole family head table. Beneath the gold letters, Elaine Cole Miles, then a generous row of sponsors. I scanned for Reagan on instinct. Found it finally, thin cardstock, small type, the kind of font you use when you're trying to soften a blow. Table 14. Back by the swinging kitchen doors where servers slip in and out with silver trays that clink like tired metal. My dress blues pulled my shoulders square. I could hear cloth brush my nameplate, a button knock the edge of the card. Tiny reminders to smile, sit, and stay small. From the stage, the band played a light swing number, brass rippling across red carpet. Prime rib and black pepper sauce braided with wine into a warm perfume. Expensive, unfamiliar, nothing like dirt and sweat ground into memory from the field. Elaine appeared without a sound, like she belonged to the chandelier itself. A manicured finger smoothed an imaginary thread along my sleeve. Honey, don't read into it. Keeping Miles near the head table helps him talk to sponsors. You understand. Magazine cover smile, absolutely no shift at the corners of her eyes. Navy dress, nipped waist, oversized pearls, chosen on purpose to glow near my father's uniform and still outshine it. I nodded before I decided whether to agree. My father glanced over, returned the nod, a pre-signed approval stamp. Tonight will be smooth. He lifted a glass to a newly arrived general, his laugh clinking into the room's crystal chorus. At the photo wall, Miles already stood between two silver-haired men, hands pocketed just so, chin tipped, half smile locked in. A PR girl pinned something to his lapel and whispered a line that made him laugh louder. In the backdrop, embroidered with the Veterans Association logo, I caught my reflection, one straight dark blue line that refused to disappear. You good? Evan asked low, his hand closed around mine, warm and steady as an anchor. I'm good, I said. It's his night. The sentence sounded correct on paper. Inside, a cord tightened a click, like a parachute line taking wind. We moved past the front rows of tables. Each one displayed a small placard of my father's medals and curated memories. Kosovo, Iraq, Afghanistan. Under them, glossy little captions, leadership, legacy, family. At my table, there was no legacy card, just a slightly crooked cloth and chairs pressed up against the two-way kitchen door. Every time it flapped, warm air rolled out with the rattle of flatware. I set my clutch down and let a fingertip find the challenged coin in my inner pocket. Heavy brass with a hairline nick, a gift from my old CO the day I earned my Ranger tab. The coin steadied my spine like a cold hand between the shoulders. The MC launched into the welcome, syllables round and polished. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight is about tradition, about the hands that kept the colors flying. And of course, it's about the family of Colonel Richard Cole. Heads tilted toward the head table as if tugged by magnets. My father stood, cracked his knuckles once, his pre-stage tell. He's always been good at this. Someone says attention, and the room locks up. Someone says at ease, and the room exhales. Only I noticed him tug his cuff and touch the tiny flag cufflink. He does that when he wants the world to forget anything ever slips. Evan bent, picked up a program that had fallen by my chair. He tapped a line of tiny print on the back page, the one nobody reads. Sponsor remarks may be adjusted at the discretion of the sponsor's representative. He didn't add commentary, just drummed it once with a finger. I nodded, not sure why it mattered to him. I went back to the scene in front of me. Veterans sitting straight, spouses smoothing shawls, 20-something servers weaving between chairs, an entire world running on unwritten rules everyone somehow knows. Elaine drifted by again, a seam of perfume in her wake. She set a guiding hand on Miles's shoulder and turned him toward a camera, then nudged my father half a step into the light. She was a stage director. The rest of us, even my father, hit our marks when the lights came up. People murmured about a new Veterans Fund contract, next year's communications push. A joke about golf tickets made the rounds. Someone called my father the torchbearer. No one used the word daughter anywhere near me. Tonight, Daughter meant a woman in a gown at the head table, soft smile ready for the family picture. I was in dress blues at table 14. The misalignment was thin but sharp, like a box cutter skimming cardboard. When the appetizers came out, a man with a country club pin stepped into my path, glanced at my uniform, and beamed. "Thanks for keeping logistics tight tonight, miss. Bet you're slammed." I smiled on autopilot. "Yes, sir." Evan tilted his head at me. The man had already turned to chase a bigger laugh and a whiter head of hair. I let nothing stick. Before a movement, you learn to ignore the grit to leave room for the map, the wind, the radio. I'd do the same tonight. Simple plan: sit, eat something, clap on cue, hug my father, leave early. I finally found my chair. The tablecloth had a small ridge near the edge. I smoothed it like I was smoothing a thought. Across the room, Miles told a story with the words legacy and future. I could tell by his hands. He's practiced in the mirror. The band slid into slower jazz. The lights dimmed half a notch. Whispering moved like surf. I set my hand on the table. My index finger found the coin again. Evan pulled out his chair beside me, body angled toward the room, listening with his eyes. He does that. I forget until he points out the detail everyone else missed. The MC tapped the mic, tiny pops pulling focus. "Before we begin the program, the association would like to invite Colonel Cole's family to stand for a special recognition." Spotlights pooled at the head table. I lifted halfway from my seat, looking for my father. He placed a hand at Elaine's back, another on Miles's shoulder, rising with them. Pearls flashed, dots of light jumped across linen. I waited for the MC to read one more name, Reagan, even as an afterthought. He smiled at his card and swerved into professional syrup. "We honor the devoted wife who kept the home fires and the son who's carrying on the legacy of service." I set my knife and fork exactly parallel and drew a long breath, pepper cutting clean through. Table 14 shivered as the kitchen door slapped again, heat and the chime of a tray riding the same gust. My name didn't pass anyone's lips. Applause burst like confetti. Evan leaned, held my gaze a beat longer than usual, a question without words. I gave him the same field smile I've used on the longest nights. I'm still here. I'm still upright. And if I have to, I still know how to step forward. Networking hour always feels like a choreographed dance. Lights dip a notch, the band slides into agreeable jazz, and the whole room moves like it's wading through honey. Slow steps, polished words, wine glasses blinking like fireflies. I leave table 14 with a courtesy-thin smile and let the current carry me. The sponsor wall throws its grid of logos across the carpet, every step slicing through a sawtooth patch of light. I try to walk the long way around conversations about contracts, but Elaine's shadow is everywhere. She's got radar for every camera in the room. A woman with a neat bob and an event coordinator badge stops me. "Are you with logistics? Kitchen says they're short one person to check the service line." I glance down at my uniform and lift my chin half an inch. "I'm infantry. I'm here as family." She blinks, pastes on a fast apology smile, and slides away like she was never there. I stay still a beat and decide it's easier to let that land soft than to be angry. Some mislabels are too small to waste energy correcting. Evan is beside me, quiet. He studies the seating chart again, chandeliers shattering into snowflake reflections on the acrylic. "They think everything matches the plan," he murmurs. "Whose plan?" I ask. "Whoever holds the mic," he says with a dry half-smile. He's not talking about the MC. I follow his eyes. Elaine has my father by the elbow, piloting him toward the biggest sponsor pod. Miles is centered, jacket open 2 buttons, right hand fan like he's stepping into a photo that already existed. Flashes crackle. Smiles hit the same angle, the same proof of pour. A heavy-set man in a wine-colored blazer leans in. "Sweetheart, thanks for keeping this running smooth. Can we get 2 extra prime ribs at my table?" He points toward the stage. I start to fix the sweetheart, then just nod and let it go. Evan tips his head. "I've got it." He scoops 2 menus off a cocktail table. In the corner, the sponsor list is printed small. His finger stops on a square logo with thin wave lines like invisible connections. I know that logo, just not under this much light. "They're using the shortened name," he mutters to himself. Quieter. I move on and meet a silver-haired veteran with campaign ribbons on his lapel. His handshake is the solid kind you get from people who have actually led. "Colonel's daughter. Fine man, your dad." "I'm an infantry officer," I say. "Even better." He pivots without missing a beat. He tells a desert story that lands in a golf club fundraiser. I listen, tracking his breathing more than the plot. He's happy. Old joy is rare. It deserves to stand undisturbed. Elaine arrives, her perfume half a step ahead. "Reagan, darling, give me a hand." She deposits a glass in my palm like a stage prop and steers Miles left by exactly half a step so he fits the logo in frame. "Stand here," she says, pointing to a patch of wall the chandelier doesn't quite reach. Chin angled just so, she calls sponsor names like a spell. I notice how she touches my father's arm, an invisible contract signature, and how she touches Miles's shoulder, handing him the role. I learned a lot in the Army. That skill wasn't in the course catalog. We drift down a runner toward the photo booth. A kid holds up a chalkboard. "Tell us your favorite memory with the Colonel." Miles grabs it, writes fast, big letters, confident strokes. The PR kid reads, bursts out laughing. The group laughs with him. I think about my own favorite memory and can't find one bright enough to hang in a living room. I remember a quick handshake in a parking lot before graduation, a nod instead of praise after a night fire range, a proud of you text that arrived late. I don't fit this wall of memories, and that's fine. Evan leans in, voice almost to himself. Sponsor language says the rep can intervene if the program cuts against honoring those who serve. I look at him. He's still not looking at me. His eyes move across the backdrop to a slide cycling legacy family future. "Where'd you read that?" I ask. He lifts the folded program and taps the tiny line along the inner margin. I huff a laugh. "Nobody reads that far." "One person does," he says, pocketing the paper like a folding knife. A young server with a high ponytail nearly dumps a tray when the kitchen door whips back. I reach and catch the outermost glass, saving a streak of red wine from a stranger's white dress. "Thank you," she whispers, eyes wide. "You're fine," I tell her, giving a small nod so she knows I'm fine, too. The motion shifts my challenge coin against my rib, cold, precise, reminding me why I came. Stand tall, look steady. At the center tables, my father has become a slow orbit around VIP chairs. Someone claps his back and says, "Rock-solid home front," right as Elaine smiles. Miles riffs nonstop, hands opening and closing on cue. I'd bet he's selling a Connect the Generations campaign. He's good at it. Some people are born knowing how to say "we honor the legacy" without glancing at the paper. "Want to leave early?" Evan asks. I shake my head. "It's my father's retirement." I hear the sentence drop onto the carpet like a coin. It doesn't ring loud, but it stays. Not because I want to be here, but because I refuse to exit like I've been ushered out. Another sponsor cluster swings by. A platinum blonde woman hands me a business card without reading my nameplate. "If you're interested in events management, call me." I think about the convoy I routed through a rain-dark night, mud-slick map, broken radio, stretcher weight shared, and decide not to say it out loud. I slip the card into my pocket. Evan catches my eye and nods the way he says I get it. That's enough. The room's sound changes when the MC steps onto the riser. Conversations snip their tails in a few heartbeats. Lights pivot to the stage, sweeping over faces that compress emotion into ceremony. Elaine threads Miles back to the head table on the shortest path. My father straightens his tie. I set my glass down. Ice kisses in a clean little ting like a radio check before step off. The MC smiles, voice as slick as a freshly wiped bar. "Ladies and gentlemen, the moment we've all been waiting for," remarks from the man who devoted his life to this uniform, Colonel Richard Cole. The room applauds in even beats, like a parade ground cadence. I watch my father walk up, still steady after all those years addressing formations. He takes the mic, eyes sweeping the room to collect attention. I stand still and pull in a slow breath. The words he's about to choose will decide who stands where in the final picture of the night. Some places never wash out of memory. For me, it's the training area, the ridgeline woods where mud marries mosquitoes like nature's testing whether willpower dissolves in water. Inside the ballroom, prime rib and candle wax wrap people like a freshly laundered blanket. In my head, night wind still slaps my face, chandeliers tilt into a cold moon over treetops, and glassware becomes the clack of ruck straps. I learned what steadfast really means standing on that pit of churned dirt, map folded 4 times in my pocket, rain cutting sideways, mouth dry as paper. The cotter blew the whistle. We dropped, rose, pushed through brush, through creeks, through our own stubbornness. One night in fieldcraft, wind whistled through teeth like a weird instrument and a teammate slipped into a ditch. I caught his shoulder strap in a blink. My hand clamped down like it was holding a promise. If I've got breath, I don't let go. The day I earned my ranger tab, road dust turned honey on my boots. I stood tall, replaying the night fire kneels that left my head spinning, the pre-dawn ammo counts, the radio tweaks. I pulled my phone and found my dad's name, his contact photo, laughing with a golf club. I sent a rare big smile, tab still stiff on my sleeve. His proud of you text landed 2 days later, attached to a picture of him and his foursome at the course. My strong daughter. I tried to feel the joy, but my after there turned celebration into applause a beat off. Then deployment, nights deep as the bottom of a hat, sand working its way into the collar. I learned to hear wind for direction, to see in the dark without seeing, to talk less and do more. One night the radio wouldn't shut up, convoy stuck, dirt road turned oatmeal, tires spinning like ice. I cut my squad through a tangle of trees to shave distance, counted breaths so I wouldn't miss a call. We lifted a wounded kid onto a litter, felt like lifting part of myself. While we waited for the bird, I pulled the sat phone. I wanted my dad's voice the way you want a fixed landmark, something that never moves. I called at 19:30 back home, safe bet he'd finished dinner. Rings, then his voice, warm and busy with forks on plates behind him. I said, "I'm okay. We just pulled a kid out of the mud, birds inbound." He paused a second. "Don't tell stories that worry your stepmother. I've got a foundation meeting tomorrow. I'll call you back." The line cut like a rope slipping from your hand. My guys were still bracing the litter. The rotor wash tore the cold open. I thought, some people only see a flag's shadow. They never hear the fabric snap on the pole. Another time, daylight on the range, shoulder tucked, breath held press, round road true, a ting on steel way out. The cotter nodded. I don't get many of those nods. I sent a short video home. 3 days later, "Good work." I know he loves me his way, strict, precise, zero frills. But on long nights, too few words feel like a thin blanket in winter. I wasn't angry. I learned a new skill, warming myself. Family day, I took leave. Elaine set a table like an ad spread, scented candles, napkins folded into flowers. Miles pitched a fundraiser campaign with ironed words: connect, community, legacy. My dad's eyes lit up. I told them about the mud road, a storm that wrecked the route, how we restaked markers in the dark, radio hiccuping, hands signing back and forth. Elaine nodded politely and asked if I'd considered public relations, safer, help Mom with events. I smiled. Maps suit me better. The table laughed just enough for a safe joke. I don't expect my family to know how a squad can knit together like a net, how dirt becomes glue for memories. I just want, when my name gets called, for it not to be skimmed like a caption. I want my father once to look at me the way he looks at a teammate, not a prop in the edge of a family photo. Back in the ballroom, the MC rolls into legacy, family, future. Every word sounds mirror-rehearsed, sweet and rounded. Faces glow under a perfect arc of chairs. I feel the clash between carpet that hushes like grass and gravel grinding in my head. My finger rides the rim of my challenge coin. The tiny scratch kisses skin like Morse code. I'm here. I'm awake. I remember a late afternoon after a long movement. My team sat on warm concrete, cracked open MREs, made dumb jokes only the exhausted find funny. I looked at them and saw a family that doesn't need pictures to prove it exists. We swapped sauce packets, traded candy bars, laughed to tears. A young soldier asked if I miss home. Yes, I said. Where's home? He asked. I pointed at the circle we made. He got it immediately, the way some truths fit like boots. All those pieces click together until table 14 stops being a mistake and becomes a statement. When the MC says, "Would Colonel Cole's family please stand?" I watch my father lay a hand on Elaine's back, pull Miles up with him, and I understand. If I don't step to my own rightful spot, I will always be the candle shadow outside the frame. Timing is a field skill. Step too soon, you're exposed. Too late, you miss. In here, same rule. I feel silence bloom in my chest like the second before a starting whistle. My palm finds the chair back, fabric rough enough to drag me present. Evan leans closer, not to ask if I'm okay, but to put his shoulder level with my eyes, the reference line I can use to true myself. I give him the smallest nod. If my name gets skipped again, I'm standing. Not to hijack the light, just to return a name to its proper place. I'll stand the way the field taught me, straight, clear, steady. I won't say much, just enough, like an order passed on a line we already checked twice. And when the MC glides past daughter, right where my name should land, I know the moment is rolling toward me like thunder along a far ridge. My father stood in the light like his hands were born to cradle a microphone. He opened with the classic, "First day in uniform," voice low with a coal-warm patch that always works on a room like this. People listened with respect pre-pinned to their lapels, and I listened too, trying to sit where they wanted me, the well-behaved audience. He hit the right waypoints, campaigns, leadership lessons, the fallen. Heads in the front rows nodded at the correct names. I thought of those men, the ones whose handshakes carry real weight the last time you take them. I wanted the speech unscented by PR powder. Then it tilted toward family. "No one does anything big alone," he said, stepping toward the head table and extending a hand to Elaine. She kept the house, kept me, kept things still so I could stand straight. The lights poured down her pearls until they flashed like a disciplined formation. Applause marched in even cadence. My father turned to Miles. "And this young man," he smiled, eyes soft in a way they rarely are for me, "is the future serving the community in his own way." I didn't move. My hand stayed on the edge of my table, finger finding the coin in my pocket like muscle memory. I waited for Reagan even as the last drop in an almost empty glass. He changed topics clean as a formation change. Sponsors, organizers, the folks working behind the scenes, with a nod toward the service corridor. Then more on legacy, more on the next generation, words buffed and shiny enough to slide right off each other. The screen behind him flipped to a new slide, the Future Veterans Foundation board. Center stage, a glossy wooden chair as icon. Another image, a square tech logo with thin wave lines crossing like a network. Evan stilled half a breath. His eyes narrowed the way only he does, like he's measuring wind by ear. I knew that logo, the tiny version in the program's footer, the one on the technical white papers he reads after midnight. I didn't say anything because the MC had reappeared, envelope in hand. "And so we don't just look back, we step forward," the MC purred. "The association is pleased to announce a new seat on the Veterans Foundation Board, awarded to a young leader connecting our community, whose energy you've seen tonight." He pivoted with a flourish. "Congratulations to Miles." Applause flamed up like a blast of hot air. Elaine leaned and kissed Miles's cheek with coronation ceremony precision. A staffer carried out the literal chair, polished wood, a little brass nameplate, placed it beside the head table. Camera shutters rattled like sleet. I looked at that chair. It gleamed too perfectly. No nicks. I thought about field benches that shimmy with every rut in the road, about a splintered edge digging into my back all night on a long movement. This chair doesn't know what a jolt is. Around me, succession, fresh air. The words you use when you want to seal an old story and slap on a new label. I waited for one more line with my name. Maybe. And Colonel's daughter, Reagan, currently serving infantry. A short sentence, a bridge to the family photo at the end. Nothing. The slide flipped to a studio-bright photo of Miles at the foundation office, next to posters clean as glass. I wasn't in that picture. I wasn't in tonight's official story either. Beside me, Evan folded the program and slipped it into his inside pocket with a calmness that felt almost unnatural. He watched the stage like he was photographing it into memory. Pepper wafted up from entrees rolling out. The first uncorked reds added their note. The kitchen doors slapped again, metal on metal, heat and clatter washing my table. Layered over the small sounds, the MC lifted his tone. And now, a few words from Miles. Miles took the mic. He spoke about the legacy of a great father, the duty to carry it on, connecting veterans to the next generation through modern media. Every word was a river stone polished for hours in his mouth, round, smooth, designed to catch light. The room laughed in the right places, clapped on cue. I watched my father's face. Pride sat there plain as day. I used to crave that look like water after a long run. Now it dried my tongue in a different way. At some point, I was on my feet. I don't remember pushing the chair back, just the feel of carpet fibers contracting under my heels and the room's murmur bursting like foam. I moved along the outer rim of the tables, little islands with candle beacons. At the edge of the light, the MC was bending to hand Miles the mic back, and I caught my father's profile, perfectly placed, bronze still. I wasn't there to spoil a scene. I was there to set a chair facing the truth. "Excuse me," I said. My voice was no louder than usual, but a nearby mic caught it. "You forgot your daughter." Heads swung. Silence dropped and spread fast. My heartbeat sounded like a wooden clapper in a windowless room. I didn't look for Evan. I knew he was looking, calm as a lake before wind turns it. Elaine smiled, the practiced smile of someone trained for spill cleanup. "Reagan, darling, tonight is about your father. Everyone knows you serve. We're proud of you." She said it like offering a child an extra dessert. I nodded. "Then say my name." I turned to my father. "I'm an infantry officer. I have a ranger tab. I'm serving. When you thank family and hand the future to the young, I don't disappear." A ripple of "oh" moved through a few rows. My father raised the mic. I watched a fence go up behind his eyes, built by a man more at ease issuing orders than receiving questions. "Reagan," he said, not loud, but with weight, "we have a program. Sit down. We'll talk after." He flicked a glance at the MC, stagecraft signal you only see if you know the trade. The MC took it immediately. "Let's continue with the program." He smiled, and that's when I saw two dark blue silhouettes move along the room's edge. MP, the military reflex when someone says ensure order. I didn't break eye contact with my father. "I'll sit," I said evenly, "when you acknowledge that I'm here." Behind me, boots softened by carpet. In my periphery, the network logo pulsed again on the screen, thin waves like a mesh spreading. Evan had it right. The person with the mic doesn't always control the story, but before the wind shifts, someone has to stand and face it. A military police sergeant touched my elbow, polite by the book. "Ma'am," I nodded. "I can walk," I said, same tone, same volume, to my father. "I'll sit in my place." I didn't wait for an answer. I turned and walked at the measured speed of someone stepping out of formation without breaking discipline. Back at table 14, I pulled my chair in, sat, reset my knife and fork, and let the coin rest cool and solid against my chest, keeping rhythm. On stage, the MC stumbled a beat, spackled it with a joke, a light cue, a few not very convinced laughs that fell like nails to the floor. Elaine put her head near my father's and whispered. Miles took a sip of water, fingers white on the mic. The chandeliers didn't dim or flare, but the air changed temperature. I heard Evan's chair slide somewhere behind me, not loud, more like the click of a small switch. I didn't know exactly what he'd do. I just knew he rarely reads a line without a plan to use it, and the tiny line in the program margin had been twitching since his finger tapped it. I looked back up at the screen, square logo, wave lines like radio links closing gaps people like to imagine are too wide to cross. Maybe those gaps were about to shrink. There's a second when a room changes pressure. Not the lights dimming, not the AC kicking up, just air that suddenly weighs more. After I said, "I'll sit when you acknowledge I'm here," I could feel the whole place hold its breath like someone pressed pause. Then sound rushed back, louder by one beat, silver on china, a chair leg scuff, a polite cough. The MC pasted on a reset smile, tried to braid family warmth into a rope strong enough to pull everyone over the awkward gap. My father kept his face flat as a no-wind lake, but his collar twitched. Elaine tilted, whispering. Miles lowered the mic a notch and held a magazine smile that was just starting to shake. 2 MPs were already behind me, no fuss, no threat. Their uniforms are orders without words. One spoke in regulation tones. "Ma'am, please help us keep the program on track." I nodded, voice calm. "I'm not disrupting anything. I'm asking to be called by name." A gloved hand touched my elbow, polite, the same touch you use to guide someone out of a meeting or steady them on a step. I didn't yank away. I didn't stand either. I looked straight at the stage and kept my back against the chair like an anchor point. The challenge coin in my inner pocket pressed cold against my rib, a fixed coordinate in a room full of shiny chairs. The MC pushed ahead with the future of the foundation. My father reset the mic into commander mode, voice dropping like he was speaking to a single company. "Reagan will respect the program. We're moving on." The words were for the room. The look he gave me was a fence, tall enough to hide where I was standing. I've practiced too many orderly withdrawals not to recognize the feeling. The field taught me something else. Know when to hold your position to the last minute. Evan laid a hand on my chair back. No pull, no push, just I'm here. Then he left. I heard his shoes on the carpet, low, sure, straight toward the riser. He didn't take the VIP switchbacks. He walked a line he'd already surveyed. The MC startled when a man in a navy suit arrived at the foot of the steps with a courteous raised hand. Evan said something short enough that the MC had to bend an ear. In Evan's other hand, the program lay open to the page with the tiny line only one person had read tonight. "A minute on behalf of the sponsor," Evan said. He didn't need to raise his voice. The mic caught it like metal touching metal. A small silence fell, long enough for the room to understand a different rulebook had just been opened. The MC blinked toward the control table. Elaine pressed her lips thin. My father tipped his head, measuring. The MC nodded. The fine print had cracked a narrow door, just wide enough for one person to step through. Evan climbed a single step, still not at the main mic. "1 minute," he repeated, hooking a time limit to his words. "I'll be brief and stick to the sponsorship agreement with the association." He didn't look at me. He didn't look at Elaine. He looked straight at my father the way an officer briefs a plan to a commander, clear, clean, no loops. One MP glanced at the other as if to ask whether to move in. They held. The watchfulness was there. They're trained for it, but so was a respect for the uniform on my shoulders. I stood. Not to push forward, just to stand straight at table 14, square in the sightline. Somewhere someone whispered, "What's happening?" Another voice, "Sponsor thanks, I think." The chandeliers exhaled an even wash of light, dust motes hanging like a school of fish. On the screen, the square logo with the thin wave lines glowed again. I watched Evan cant the program so the event camera could see the line he'd found. A visual lesson. A contract means nothing folded in a pocket. Training night flashed in my head, me drawing a route with a pencil tip across a plastic map, one arrow through 2 terrain features, shortest line that's still safe. Evan was doing that on a different map, program clause stage. I breathed in slow, out slow, dropped my shoulders. The MP to my right stepped back a half pace, polite, calculated, far enough I wouldn't feel her at my elbow, close enough to reach me if needed. "Ladies and gentlemen," Evan said, now holding a handheld mic from the MC. I heard the static clear, then his voice came through, crisp. "Our sponsorship agreement states that remarks at events we underwrite may not insult, exclude, or diminish the contributions of service members currently serving. If that standard is violated, the sponsor may withdraw support and request a public apology." He left a beat for the words to land. The room mulled. Someone muttered, "Is that real?" Someone else gave a tipsy scoff, the laugh people use when law meets liquor. My father lifted his chin a notch. I couldn't read him. His shoulders tightened half a centimeter. the kind of movement a lifetime of formations trains out of a body. Elaine's fingers whitened on his sleeve. Miles scanned for the prettiest exit. "We came to honor," Evan went on. "Honor, not redraw the map by erasing the name of the person standing right over there." He didn't point. He didn't say my name. He set a moral grid coordinate and let the room find the gap. I thanked him in my head the way I thank a teammate who hauls me over a rain-slick bank wordless. The MC bobbed, eager to reclaim the mic and ladle a joke over the moment. Evan raised 2 fingers for 10 more seconds. The MC hesitated, but Evan already held the only power brighter than a chandelier, silence that belongs to you. "A simple fix," Evan said. "Say the right name, credit the right work. Then we all eat our prime rib and raise a glass for Colonel Cole, and everyone past and present in this uniform." At that, the room tilted like a boat taking a crossing wave. "Hey, that's right," popped from a far table, a basic courtesy from another. An older woman half rose, half sat, ready to clap, unsure about breaking decorum. I glanced at the nearest MP and smiled. He pressed his lips into a small line that said he also liked clean solutions that didn't end with anyone escorted out. My father reached for the mic. Evan held his gaze and handed it over with an almost ceremonial courtesy. For a heartbeat, I believed we might land softly. A name spoken, a nod, the furniture set back where it belongs. But Elaine slid a half step into the lane of that sentence. "Before we continue," she said, professional sweetness back online, "let's keep the program on schedule. Contract matters can be handled." "No, Elaine," my father said, quiet, short. The room felt that difference, faced the audience. "Tonight is about honor." My chest hit the coin. Honor isn't a light word, it's something you pin to your chest and it leaves a mark. "My daughter," he began. My heart changed cadence. Someone clapped once like a flare shot. Right then, the lighting tech cued the band to fill a gap. A sax slid across the moment, accidentally or not, knocking his sentence half a step off. Elaine used the stumble to shove a cue card into the MC's hand. Reflexively, the MC raised his voice. "Let's return to the program and—" Evan didn't step back. He moved a half step forward and lifted the program high, finger on that microscopic line. "Section 6, Item C," he said, now reading coordinates. "The sponsor's representative has the right to speak when the event's purpose, honoring service, is being misdirected." The room stilled. Even the lights seemed to hang. One MP cleared his throat softly. No one told them to move. They understood, as I did, that this wasn't about ballroom order anymore. It was a simple question: who gets named when they've earned it? Evan turned the mic a few degrees. "I'll give my full remarks in the next segment," he said, deliberately slow, as the sponsor's representative. He looked straight into the closest camera for the first time all night, and as the husband of Reagan Cole. The room inhaled. Elaine's hand flew to her pearls. Miles set his water glass down hard. "Talk," the sound a guard makes when he takes a new post. My father didn't move. The MC stopped smiling. Both MPs straightened like they'd heard "stand fast." "And the mic goes to," the MC stammered, eyes hunting his card. Evan enunciated so production couldn't miss it. "The primary sponsor's representative." And the microphone was in his hand. Evan lifted the mic, the program still open in his palm like evidence. Light rimmed him in a thin halo, turning his navy suit into a patch of calm water in a choppy room. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, voice low and straight as a military grade, "we sponsor for one simple reason: to honor service, the right people, the right names, the right work." He paused, not to preen, but to let the words find footing. "I'll read the clause." His tone shifted to grid coordinates. "Remarks at events underwritten by the primary sponsor may not insult, exclude, or diminish the contributions of service members currently serving. Violation triggers the sponsor's right to withdraw support and request a public apology." He looked up. "Tonight, one currently serving soldier's name has been skipped 3 times. A murmur skimmed the room like a hull brushing a dock. No one said who, but a lot of eyes slid to table 14. I didn't stand. I set both hands on the table, stayed upright in the chair, and let the spot itself speak. One of the MPs dropped his shoulders a fraction, as if realizing they weren't the answer here. "I respect Colonel Cole," Evan said, turning to my father with the steady look of an officer briefing a commander. "And we are here because of him. No one wants to turn a celebration into a hearing, but honor isn't a tablecloth you tug over a stain. Honor requires the right name." He held the beat. "That name is Reagan Cole, Infantry Ranger Tab, currently serving." Applause cracked from a far table, lonely, then echoed by another, then a slow band of hands, not loud, but real. I didn't smile. I tightened my mouth the way you do on a ruck. Keep your water, keep your air, don't blow energy before the grade. Evan switched the mic to his other hand, voice shifting into the cadence of a decision brief. "On behalf of the sponsor, funding for tonight's event and its associated media is withdrawn effective immediately." Immediately hit the floor with weight. A man in the front row snapped upright like he'd been called in formation. The MC clutched his notes. Elaine's smile held like poured concrete, but the tips of her fingers went bloodless. "The reason," Evan said evenly, "is that the standard for honoring service has been bent. We'll redirect the full amount to a better target." He faced the crowd. "Right now, we're establishing a new, independent fund to support women who serve and their families, scholarships, therapy, career transition. It's called the Guardian Mesh Fund Reagan Cole." A chair scraped somewhere. A woman covered her mouth. Up front, Elaine took a half step back like a wave surprised her. My father stayed planted, fingers interlaced on the lectern, a bridge trying not to tremble. Miles lowered the mic, blinking fast. The fund's name hung there, heavy as a new plaque on a door. Evan kept building, steady, precise. "Why mesh? On the battlefield, when one node weakens, the others carry. Community should work the same way. Tonight the weak node is women who walked from the training area to the banquet hall and still got mislabeled." He didn't glance at me, but the room did. "The fund starts by replacing every dollar withdrawn from this event, and I'm personally matching double over the next 12 months. A low wave of "oh" rolled through, not greedy awe, but the click of a mental switch. This wasn't a bluff. A few sponsors traded looks, the kind of people who read by the metallic smell of money. Cameras swung from Evan to me, a fill light popped. Shutters pattered like rain on a tin roof. "One more point," Evan said, dropping half a register, part bargaining, part laying the last brick. "I'm speaking not only as the sponsor's representative." He looked into the nearest lens. "I'm the co-founder and CEO of MeshLink, the tactical mesh communications company behind most of this association's anonymous support for the last 3 years." Air went out of the room. People who'd been laughing comfortably pulled back a half step. The distance folks give power when it stops pretending to be elsewhere. Elaine angled her chin, dragging the smile back into place. The MC thumbed his earpiece like he wanted off the line. My father didn't move. I thought about him in blazing sun in front of a formation, how long he can hold still. But something flickered behind his eyes, a small cloud passing. "If tonight is about honor," Evan said, "it can't be built on intentional forgetting." He turned to my father. "Colonel, I respect you. I also respect the truth. The truth is Reagan Cole belongs front and center when we talk about those serving." He lowered the mic and let the quiet stand. "I'm asking for public apology, here and now, then we can raise a glass." Electric silence. My father unlinked his hands, thumb rubbing a nail the way he does before a hard talk. He stepped half a pace to the mic, his mouth parted. My breath synced to a hill-run cadence. "Reagan," he said, my name released like a pin pulled. I didn't blink. He stalled. Elaine rocked onto her toes to cut in, but Miles surprised himself by catching her forearm. I looked at him for the first time all night without seeing through PR. For a second, he looked young, a boy told to stand up in class after mispronouncing a friend's name. "I was wrong to let your name disappear tonight," my father said. In a room thick with lights, the sentence landed like a hammer. "And I'm sorry." Applause came, not the whole room, no fairy tales, but enough to make wind. I didn't stand. I nodded the nod you give when the right order finally hits the net. Evan didn't spike the ball. "Thank you, Colonel," he said. "Now, let's honor the right people the right way." He turned to the MC and handed back the mic with near-ceremonial courtesy. The MC slotted in, paving the gap with back to the program. But the current had reversed. Eyes in the room shifted like a magnetic field turning. Movement pulled from the head tables to the edges, people breaking orbit to shake Evan's hand, ask about the fund. A gray-haired woman touched my shoulder. "We've waited a long time to hear that." One MP snorted a quiet laugh. Both eased back like lowering their rifles. My father looked at me longer than he had all night. Not past me, not through a lens, at me. I couldn't read whether it was remorse, pride nicked at the edges, or simply the first time he actually saw me sharp. I took it the way you take a letter that finally finds the right mailbox after years of forwarding. Evan came back without a word. He set the program on the table and tapped the tiny line twice, the one that saved the night. I brushed the challenge coin in my pocket. The metal was cool, rain after heat. The band stayed quiet. The room held for a new tempo. "The fund will take sign-ups right after dinner," the MC said, finding his legs, "and we'd be honored to invite Reagan Cole to the stage for a family photo." A few soft laughs, more like strings tuned back to pitch than mockery. I stood, not fast. It felt like crossing a narrow bridge, not a drop below, but water slowly fixing the sky's reflection. I looked at Evan. He nodded. I looked at my father. He nodded. I walked. At the edge of my vision, phones rose, little red lights blinking. The story was already leaving the room, slipping through invisible mesh lines into streets, into backyards with BBQ smoke, into the hands of women in uniform. Somewhere a first ping sounded. A text, a notification, the net taking current. The night wasn't over, it had just turned the page. The photo session ended with a picture no one planned. Me in the middle, my father on the right, Evan on the left, the MC leaning out of frame like a boatman handing over the tiller. Flashes popped. The shutter noise fell like late-season rain. As the crowd thinned, I finally felt sweat in my palms. The challenge coin in my pocket cooled my skin like a small stone keeping hot blood in place. Down the hallway, the conversations changed pitch. At the bar, the pores got heavier. Someone asked for a selfie and whispered, "Thanks for saying what a lot of us couldn't." I nodded. There wasn't a better answer than thank you back. My phone started buzzing like it had priority traffic. By the time I unlocked the screen, the network had already done what networks do. A short clip from the event team, Evan reading the clause, my father saying, "I'm sorry," went up on the association's page. It didn't last, but Mesh finds a way. A screen record jumped to a vets group, then over to the account of a female specialist I once shared a field tent with. Her caption, "Say the right name." That's it. Shares bloomed like dry grass catching fire. The comments weren't bile, they were stories. A female army nurse whose name got skipped at a memorial. A radio tech saying it's the first time she's heard mesh used without turning it into a buzzword. A soldier's mom describing how she practiced her daughter's rank until nobody could push her out of the family frame. Evan steered me toward a side lobby to miss the crowd boiling off the ballroom. We leaned against a wall of black and white hotel photos. "The waves hitting back," he said, eyes skating the screen, not gloating, more like a tech listening for interference and checking if the source can handle the load. "Don't leave me alone with it," I said, half joke, half plea. He smiled. "No one's alone on the mesh." My father broke from the cluster and stopped in front of me. He stood quiet for a beat like waiting for the first echo to die. "Reagan," he said, no mic, no chandelier. "I didn't have control of everything tonight." I answered straight. I wasn't here to control it, I was here to exist in it. He looked tired in the way you get after standing too long, then nodded. "I want your help with press." I shook my head. "I'm not your cleanup crew. I can send you the fund's principles. Transparency, no using troops' images for personal PR, and apologies have to come with repairs." He worked his hand open and closed like a seesaw. "I'll call you," he said, promising nothing else. He turned away, shoulders dipping then squaring, like a man relearning how to stand. Elaine didn't come. I only caught her reflection in the glass, pearls gone dim in corridor light. Miles came fast and stopped 2 paces out, the photogenic distance. "Look," he rasped, your husband went hard." I lifted a shoulder, exactly the weight of the truth. He dropped his eyes to mirror shine shoes. I didn't think never mind. He looked up, tried for a smile. Congrats on the fund. I didn't make him say sorry. If you want to help veterans for real, I said, call the fund office tomorrow, not for a photo, for work. He nodded, quick like a half-learned breaststroke. Out at the lot, the night air had less perfume in it and enough cold to send everything straight to the lungs. Evan opened my door, waited, then circled to the driver's side. As the engine turned, my phone lit again. A message from the Ever-Awake network. Local Veterans Radio wants your voice tomorrow morning. Tell it yourself. I looked at Evan. Should I? He didn't answer right away, refusing the easy out of deciding for me. If you do, he said, talk like you stood tonight, no higher, no lower. I smiled. I'll speak at human volume. We didn't go straight home. Evan swung by his small office, a low building a few minutes from the hotel. Inside, only a desk lamp was on, throwing light across a map of nodes and lines like constellations snagged on glass. The fund needs rules, he said, opening his laptop. 3 to start. I recited them like an op order. 1, no money with strings that cut against honoring service. 2, no image use without clear consent, especially for women in uniform. 3, transparent money, public reports on a schedule. Evan typed fast like he'd already memorized them. Add a 4th, I said after a beat. No turning pain into clickbait. If we tell it to fix it. He paused a breath, then kept typing. I stood at the window, watching rain polish the parking lot. In the glass, my uniform turned faint. I touched the crest on my chest, metal familiar as saying my own name. My father's call came through. I let it ring one more time and picked up. His voice was rougher than usual. I spoke with the organizers. They want to negotiate. Keep part of the original funding. I looked at Evan. He gave the slightest shake, not a no, just a reminder. It's my call. I'm not shutting the door, I said. But we start from the principals. If they want to talk, set it for Monday at the fund office. No back rooms, no cameras. Quiet on the line. All right, he said. I'll be there. It ended on a short breath, like 2 soldiers on opposite ends of a pontoon bridge watching the water settle. I sat beside Evan, steel chair at my back, fingers laced on the table. I'm not gloating, I said. I'm tired but lighter. Tired like dropping a ruck, he answered. You'll carry again tomorrow, just the weight that's actually yours. I leaned my head on his shoulder and listened to the HVAC hum while my heartbeat found a new rhythm. The way a net starts breathing with the people it was built to hold. By the time we got home, the kitchen clock had clicked over in a quiet room. I silenced my phone and set it face down like putting it to sleep. Before bed, I took the challenge coin from my pocket and set it next to our wedding photo. The coin caught the light on its thin scratch, evidence of a road no one fully sees. I tapped it with a fingertip, brief, like signing a name no one else can forge. At first light, another ping from the radio show, time, address, a small studio a few blocks off post. The line, "We'd like to hear that name from you," hit my eye not as an invitation but as a knock. Evan handed me a to-go coffee, rich and warm, threading the hallway. "Channel's open," he said. "All you have to do is speak on your frequency." The only question left was whether I'd walk into that booth. Our backyard isn't big, but it's got room for a sun-faded picnic table, a black charcoal kettle, and a few folding camp chairs. The afternoon is clean as a blank page. A wood fence splits our patch of grass from the neighbors. Down the cul-de-sac, kids loop their bikes in slow circles. Evan lays out marinated steaks. Sweet heat from the sauce lifts with a thin ribbon of smoke. I crack the tap and rinse ears of corn until the kernels shine in the late light. I used to think relaxing was a class I'd never pass. Turns out all it takes is someone on the far side of the grill saying, "I'll flip them." Neighbors tap the gate. First is Mr. Wilson, former artillery, carrying a tray of potato salad the old-fashioned way. Behind him, the young couple from the end of the street. She's got an Air Force ribbon pinned to a beat-up denim jacket, arrive with a frosty jug of sweet tea, condensation beating like marbles. We talk about things that don't need microphones, whether the smoke is right yet, how red the maple's getting, whether the kid next door bats righty or lefty. Inside, my phone lies face down on the counter, quiet. The mesh is probably still pinging out there, but I let it move like a river behind trees. Evan runs through the fund's principles, the 4 lines taped to the whiteboard at his office. No money with strings that bend the mission. Clear consent for any image use, especially for women in uniform. Transparent dollars with public reports, and no turning pain into content for clicks. I listen slow, dropping commas into memory like grid marks on a map. Mr. Wilson nods. Sturdy enough to pitch a tent in a storm. I laugh. Hope so. Storm or not, we still need a drainage ditch. Evan murmurs, yeah, tongs moving like he's tuning an antenna for a clean signal. My father's letter shows up late in the afternoon, when the smoke thins and the sunlight slides toward honey. White envelope on the doormat like a bird that didn't want to startle anyone. His handwriting is tight and sure, leaning in spots like a man correcting posture after too long standing. Reagan, I made a mistake no speech can cover. If you'll let me, I want to relearn how to be a soldier's father. Call your name, your rank, your work, and keep quiet when quiet is right. Monday, I'll come to the fund office. No excuses, no rewrite of history. I fold the letter on its crease and tuck it into the small wooden box where I keep my challenge coin. Paper and metal lean against each other, one light, one heavy, both leaving marks. Invite him to the fund's core meeting. Evan asks, handing me a warm sandwich. I shake my head. Not yet. First, the advisory team, 2 women I served with, and Mr. Wilson. Dad can come later, when the principals stand on their own legs. Evan nods, no argument. We're learning to let the right thing stand without leaning on anybody too long. The mail brings a small, unmarked package. Inside, a matte print me and my squad sitting on warm concrete after a long movement, hair stuck with sweat, smiles too wide to hide how tired we were. On the back, 4 words in blue ink. We saw you always. I don't remember who clicked the shutter, and it doesn't matter. The photo has the exact amount of dust and light a true memory needs. I prop it beside our wedding picture. Different frames, same shelf, resting against each other like 2 people leaning back after a hard mile. Dusk settles and the little ball field a few blocks over flicks on its lights. The national anthem pours through the neighborhood like someone calling everyone to the porch. People stand, some with a hand to their chest, some simply lifting their chins. I stand with them, hands neither clenched nor splayed, and feel the ache in my left shoulder ease like a ruck finally set down. I've heard this song where wind and grit chew the edges of a flag. Tonight it sounds like a frequency check, pulling the last 24 hours onto one channel. When the music fades, kids run again, a baseball pops clean out of a glove, and laughter skims the grass like a sweep of headlights before it goes dark and leaves afterimages. Evan goes quiet for half a minute, then rests a hand on my stomach. I'm not a billboard person, so I don't say we're having a baby. I lay my hand over his and let a smile stand on its own. Smoke leans, a small gust taps the wind chime twice, thin notes like demitasse cups. Radio tomorrow, Evan asks. I picture the small studio, the clean black mic, the red light blooming when we're live. I picture the people out there, the army nurse whose name got skipped, the radio tech who smiles when someone uses mesh in context, the soldier's mom practicing rank. I'll do it, I say, not to rehash last night as payback. I'll talk about how saying the right name pulls a person back to the center of the picture, and how the whole picture brightens because of it. Evan smiles, eyes creasing in the lines I love, the look of someone who checks the sky before raising a tent. Mr. Wilson gathers plates, back straight like he's breaking down a gun line. Keep that fund clean, MS. Cole, he says. Old guys talk fast, but they open wallets faster when they smell the real thing. Yes, sir, I say. We'll publish the first quarterly report like a duty log. He taps the table twice, the approval signal of a generation that doesn't clap loud. Night comes calmly. The porch string lights glow patient and small. Inside, I open the box, set the challenge coin in my palm. The hairline scratch catches a silver thread of light. That coin's ridden around in my pocket through wet nights and blister days. Tonight it sits on a table dotted with BBQ sauce and breadcrumbs. I spin it once, listen to metal kiss wood, the tidy sound of a footlocker shut after range day. I don't know what storms are ahead. Monday's meeting, negotiations, the pitches that want to borrow the fund's name to polish a business card. I do know how to stake a tent tight, cut a trench, pick a first watch. I know how to draw lines and how to forgive without erasing. I know sometimes the brave thing is just sitting in your exact chair with your back straight. And when the anthem hums again from the ball field, one more time, like a chorus someone accidentally left on repeat, I understand I don't need everyone to get it. I need the right ones to stay. I blow out a candle, smoke curls into a thin line and disappears. Somewhere in town, a little radio will blink on in the morning. I'll go. I'll speak on frequency. And whether anyone hands me a microphone or not, I remember how to use my voice like a map. It got me home tonight, to a house with a charcoal grill, a wooden box for a coin and a letter, a man standing beside me, and a sky wide enough for an old song to travel without asking permission.